I honestly never thought I'd be the guy posting on Reddit about his marriage falling apart, but here I am. I've read hundreds of stories on this subreddit over the years, always thinking, there's no way someone could ignore that many red flags. Turns out, when you're the one in love, the flags don't look red. They just look like excuses. My wife, 32F, and I, 34M, had been married for 7 years. Together for almost 10. We built what looked like a pretty normal life. Decent jobs, a small house we spent years saving for, 2 dogs, weekend trips, family dinners, the usual stuff. If someone had asked me 6 months ago whether I trusted her, I would have laughed at the question. I trusted her completely. Looking back now, that's almost funny. Things didn't change overnight. That's the part people don't always understand. Betrayal isn't always some dramatic moment. Sometimes it's death by 1,000 tiny cuts. It started with little things. She suddenly cared way more about how she looked before going to work. New dresses. New perfume. Gym membership. She even changed the music she listened to. When I asked about it, she'd shrug. I'm just trying to improve myself. Fair enough. Then came the phone. That phone became glued to her hand. She used to leave it on the kitchen counter. Now it never left her pocket. Bathroom? Phone. Taking the trash out? Phone. Walking the dogs? Phone. Even sleeping. Face down. Always on silent. I joked one night. What are you hiding? State secrets? She didn't laugh. Instead, she snapped. Can I have some privacy for once? That caught me off guard. I apologized. I actually apologized. Because that's what our marriage had become. Whenever something felt wrong, I somehow ended up being the one saying sorry. She became colder every week. Conversations turned into one-word answers. Dinner together stopped. Movie nights disappeared. If I tried hugging her, she'd sigh like I was interrupting something important. Intimacy almost completely vanished. She blamed stress, work, hormones, being tired. Every excuse sounded believable because I wanted to believe it. Then the gaslighting started. I'd ask why she got home 3 hours late. She'd roll her eyes. You're acting paranoid. I'd mention she'd been texting during dinner. You imagine things. I'd ask who kept calling after midnight. My coworker. Every single time. Coworker. 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 Apparently this mysterious coworker needed to talk to her more than I did. One Friday she came home smiling. Actually smiling. I hadn't seen that smile directed at me in months. She walked in humming some song, threw her purse on the couch and immediately went upstairs to shower. Halfway through the shower I heard her phone vibrate. Over. And over. And over. I stared at it. I wasn't planning to touch it. Seriously. I told myself that if I checked it, I'd become the jealous husband I promised I'd never be. Then the screen lit up. A preview notification appeared. Can't stop thinking about last night, Redheart. My stomach dropped. The message disappeared almost immediately because of Face ID. But I'd already seen enough. I spent the next hour sitting alone in the kitchen. Not moving. Not crying. Just existing. When she came downstairs, she acted completely normal. Asked if I wanted pizza. Talked about work. Asked whether we should repaint the guest room. Meanwhile, I was trying to process the fact that another man had apparently been thinking about my wife all day. I almost confronted her right there. Instead, I said nothing. For the first time in our relationship, I lied. The next morning she told me she had to work overtime on Saturday. That had never happened before. I smiled. Tough weekend? She nodded without even looking at me. Yeah. Then she kissed my forehead. That kiss felt so fake it made my skin crawl. As soon as she left, something inside me finally broke. I wasn't looking for revenge. I wasn't trying to invade her privacy anymore. I just wanted the truth. I checked our phone bill. Hundreds of calls. One number. Almost every day. Late nights. Lunch breaks. Weekends. I copied the number. Searched it online. Nothing. Then social media. Still nothing. Finally, I saved it into my contacts and checked messaging apps. A profile picture appeared. A man. Smiling. Standing next to a motorcycle. No family photos. No relationship status. Just enough information to make my heart sink. I clicked through his public posts. One photo stopped me cold. It was taken at a restaurant. The same restaurant where my wife claimed she'd been attending a women's networking event. The date matched perfectly. My hands started shaking. I kept scrolling. Another picture. A hiking trail. She had supposedly been visiting her mother that day. Another lie. Then another. Every memory I trusted started collapsing one by one. Suddenly, I wasn't remembering our marriage. I was investigating it. I opened our shared credit card account. Hotel charges. Twice. Small boutique hotel across town. Weekdays. Afternoons. She'd told me she was attending company training sessions. I stared at the screen until everything became blurry. For a second. I actually hoped I was misunderstanding something. Maybe business meetings happened there. Maybe. Maybe. It's amazing how desperate your brain becomes when your heart isn't ready for reality. That evening she came home carrying groceries. She smiled. I bought your favorite snacks. I looked at her and wondered how someone could lie so effortlessly. She kissed me. I almost pulled away. Instead, I hugged her. Because I wanted to know if she'd feel guilty. She didn't. Not even a little. That night she fell asleep within minutes. I didn't sleep at all. Around 2 in the morning. Her phone vibrated again. This time. She smiled in her sleep before reaching for it. And that's when I realized something that hurt even more than the cheating itself. She wasn't just hiding another man. She was happier talking to him than she had been with me in a very long time. I wish I could say that was the worst part. It wasn't. Because 2 days later, I found something that completely changed everything I thought I knew about my wife. 2 days later, I came home earlier than usual because a meeting had been cancelled. She wasn't home. According to her, she was supposed to be working late again. I stood in the kitchen for a while, staring at nothing. I don't even know why I did what I did next. Maybe I was looking for answers. Maybe I was looking for a reason to believe I'd been wrong. I opened the cabinet where we kept old paperwork, looking for our insurance documents. Instead, I found a small envelope with several receipts inside. None of them made sense. Expensive restaurants we had never been to together. A jewelry store. A luxury hotel. The dates stretched back almost 8 months. 8 months. She hadn't just made one mistake. She had built an entirely different life without me realizing it. Then I noticed something tucked underneath the receipts. A second phone. An actual second phone. For a few seconds I just stared at it. Who even has a second phone unless they're trying to hide something? I picked it up. No passcode. Maybe she never expected me to find it. The moment the screen lit up, dozens of notifications flooded in. Text messages. Photos. Voice messages. Missed calls. One contact pinned to the top. Daniel Red Heart. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. I opened the conversation. The oldest messages were harmless enough. Work jokes. Coffee plans. Complaints about coworkers. Then they slowly became personal. Then flirtatious. Then unmistakably romantic. The worst part wasn't reading "I love you." The worst part was reading everything she said about me. He notices nothing. Sometimes I forget I'm even married. He's too predictable. I don't think I'll ever leave him. Life is easier this way. I had to put the phone down. I actually felt sick. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. I wasn't just being cheated on. I was being laughed at. When I finally calmed down, I kept reading. That turned out to be another mistake. There were hundreds of messages. Pictures from weekends she claimed were business trips. Selfies from hotel rooms. Videos of them laughing together. Photos of gifts he'd bought her. The necklace she had told me she'd purchased herself? He bought it. The perfume she insisted was a birthday gift from a coworker? Him. Even the expensive watch she'd started wearing. Him again. Everything had a lie attached to it. Then I found a message that completely changed the situation. Daniel wrote, "Does your husband know about the money yet?" Money? I kept scrolling. My stomach dropped. She had been transferring money from our joint savings account for months. Small amounts. Never enough for me to notice immediately. A few $100s here. A few hundred there. Thousands altogether. She told him she was helping him pay off debts because he deserved a fresh start. That money was supposed to be for our future. For home renovations. For vacations. For emergencies. She had quietly been funding another man's life. I felt numb. Not angry. Not yet. Just empty. I called my brother. I didn't tell him everything. I simply asked if I could stay with him for a few days. He heard something in my voice. "What's wrong?" "I'll explain later." He didn't ask another question. He just said, "Come over whenever you need." I packed a small bag but didn't leave. Not yet. I wanted one thing. The truth. Not another excuse. Not another lie. The truth. That evening she walked through the front door smiling. "Hey! You're home early." She froze when she saw me sitting at the dining table. The second phone was lying in front of me. So were the hotel receipts. The bank statements. The jewelry receipt. The room went completely silent. She looked at everything. Then looked at me. Her face lost all color. For a moment, I thought she might actually confess. Instead, she sighed. "This isn't what it looks like." Of course. Those 6 words. The universal anthem of people who've just been caught. I asked one question. "Who is Daniel?" She hesitated for maybe 3 seconds. Then she smiled. "A client." I couldn't believe it. She was still lying. Even now. I unlocked the second phone and placed it in front of her. Her own messages filled the screen. She looked down. Then back at me. Still. She lied. "You went through my private phone?" That was her concern. Not the affair. Not the lies. My invasion of her privacy. I laughed. Not because anything was funny. Because my brain couldn't process how absurd the situation had become. "You've been cheating on me for 8 months. You don't understand. You stole our savings. I was going to replace it. You told another man you loved him. I didn't mean it like that. You called me predictable." I was angry. Every answer created 3 new lies. Every excuse contradicted the last one. She couldn't even keep her own story straight. Then something happened that I never expected. The doorbell rang. Neither of us moved. It rang again. She suddenly looked terrified. Actually terrified. I walked to the door. She rushed after me. "Don't open it." That sentence told me everything. I opened it anyway. Standing on my porch was Daniel, holding flowers. He smiled. I figured I'd surprise. He stopped mid-sentence. His eyes shifted from me to my wife, to the pile of evidence on the dining table behind us. The silence was deafening. Finally, he looked at me. "You must be my husband," I answered. His face turned completely white. He looked at my wife. She looked back at him. Then, unbelievably, she spoke first. "I can explain." He frowned. "You told me you were already separated." I slowly turned toward her. "What?" Daniel looked confused. "I thought you two were just living together until the paperwork was finished." I felt like the floor disappeared beneath me. She hadn't only lied to me. She had lied to him too. He looked genuinely shocked. "So, you're still together?" I nodded. "We were. Until about 5 minutes ago." Daniel looked back at her. "I asked you a dozen times if you were still married." She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. For the first time since I'd known her. She had no lie ready. Then Daniel did something I never saw coming. He took the flowers, dropped them into the trash can beside the porch, looked directly at me, and quietly said, "I'm sorry." Then he walked away without saying another word. I watched him get into his car and drive off. When I turned around, my wife was crying. Real tears. Or at least they looked real. I didn't want this to happen. I stared at her for a long moment. Then I asked the question that had been haunting me for days. "No." "What?" she whispered. "I asked when you stopped loving me." She couldn't answer. And somehow, her silence hurt even more than every lie she'd told before. I grabbed my bag, picked up my car keys, and walked toward the front door. Behind me, she kept saying my name over and over. I didn't turn around. I thought the nightmare was finally over. I was wrong. Because less than 24 hours later, I received a phone call from someone I had never met before. And what she told me made everything even worse. The next morning, I barely slept. I was lying on my brother's couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation I'd had with my wife over the last year. Every "I'm working late," every fake smile, every argument where somehow I ended up apologizing. Around 10 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. Normally I would have ignored it. For some reason, I answered. "Is this Mark?" "Yeah." There was a long pause. "My name is Emily. I think we need to talk. It's about your wife and Daniel." I felt my stomach tighten. At first I assumed she was another coworker. I was wrong. "I'm Daniel's fiancé." Silence. "He proposed to me 9 months ago." I honestly didn't know what to say. She continued before I could respond. "I found your number because your wife accidentally left it in one of Daniel's messages. I didn't know you existed until yesterday." Neither of us spoke for a few seconds. Then she quietly said something that hit me harder than I expected. "I think we've both been living the same lie. We met that afternoon at a small coffee shop." She looked exhausted, eyes swollen from crying. She placed a folder on the table. "I figured you deserved to know everything." Inside were screenshots, hotel reservations, photos, and messages. Some I'd already seen. Others were completely new. Daniel had eventually discovered my wife was still married. According to Emily, he tried to end the relationship several times. Every single time, my wife had convinced him to stay. She told him I was abusive. She told him I refused to sign divorce papers. She even claimed I was secretly seeing someone else. None of it was true. Emily looked at me. I asked Daniel why he stayed. What did he say? He believed he was helping someone escape a bad marriage. I closed my eyes. That was the moment I realized just how many lives my wife had damaged with her lies. Mine. Daniel's. Emily's. Even our families. We spent almost 2 hours comparing timelines. The lies fit together like puzzle pieces. The girls' weekend she'd taken? She'd actually spent 3 days with Daniel. The conference out of town? Vacation with him. The birthday dinner she claimed had been cancelled? She celebrated with him instead. Even worse. There were days she had lunch with me. And dinner with him. I couldn't wrap my head around living 2 completely different lives without breaking. Emily finally sighed. I'm leaving him. I nodded. So am I. We wished each other well and left. I never saw her again. That evening, my wife called me 18 times. I ignored every call. Then the texts started. Please let me explain. It wasn't supposed to happen. I still love you. We can fix this. Then. You're throwing away 10 years over one mistake. One mistake. 8 months. Hundreds of lies. Thousands of dollars. Countless broken promises. She still called it one mistake. A few days later, she showed up at my brother's house. I stepped outside before she could knock. She looked nothing like the confident woman I'd confronted a few days earlier. She hadn't slept. Her makeup was running. She was crying before she even spoke. I ended things with Daniel. I simply replied. That was your decision. I'm choosing you. I shook my head. No. What do you mean, no? You didn't choose me. She looked confused. You chose him. You lied to me. You lied to him. You lied to everyone. The only reason you're standing here is because everything finally fell apart. She started crying harder. I'll quit my job. No. I'll go to therapy. You probably should. I'll do anything. I believed that part. I really did. But not because she loved me. Because she couldn't stand losing control of the situation. I looked at her for what I knew would be the last time as my wife. I forgive you. Her eyes widened. Really? I forgive you because I don't want to carry this anger forever. She took a step toward me. But forgiveness doesn't mean I trust you. It doesn't mean we stay married. And it definitely doesn't erase what happened. She completely broke down. I walked back inside. That was the last conversation we ever had in person. The divorce wasn't quick. There were lawyers. Arguments over money. More lies. At one point she even claimed the missing savings had been shared expenses. Fortunately, the bank records told a very different story. Eventually everything was finalized. I kept the house. She moved into an apartment across town. Some mutual friends stopped talking to me because they believed her version of events. Months later, several of them apologized after learning the truth. Others never did. And honestly, I stopped caring. Healing wasn't dramatic. There wasn't one magical morning where I woke up feeling okay. It happened slowly. The first day I laughed without forcing it. The first weekend I didn't check my phone hoping she'd apologize. The first time I walked into my house and it finally felt peaceful instead of lonely. Those little moments mattered more than I expected. About a year later, I ran into Daniel completely by accident at a grocery store. He looked embarrassed. I owe you another apology. You already apologized. I should have figured it out sooner. Maybe. He nodded. I've spent a long time blaming myself. I thought about that for a moment. Then I said, we were both lied to. He looked relieved. We shook hands. Then went our separate ways. No anger. No shouting. Just two people who had been manipulated by the same person. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Cheating rarely starts with one bad decision. It starts with small lies that become easier every day. Once someone gets comfortable lying about little things, the big lies don't seem impossible anymore. Trust isn't destroyed the day you discover the affair. It's destroyed every single time someone chooses deception instead of honesty. If you're reading this because your gut is telling you something isn't right, don't ignore it just because you're afraid of the answer. Ask questions. Pay attention to actions, not words. Don't let someone convince you that you're crazy for noticing obvious changes. Love requires trust, but trust requires honesty from both people. And here's the hardest lesson I had to learn. You can love someone with your whole heart. And they can still choose to betray you. That isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their choices. Today, my life looks nothing like it did when all of this started. It's quieter. Simpler. Sometimes lonely. But it's honest. And after everything that happened, I'll take an honest life over a comfortable lie every single time.